Hi, cutie pie. How are you?
What's shakin', bacon?
What's shakin'? Zosia Mamet is here with us today. She's here promoting her new book. This is not her first book. This is her second book because she wrote, well, a kind of a cookbook and a kind of a memoir. I don't know.
Essays?
Well, it was an anthology. So, I didn't entirely write it myself. I hoodwinked a bunch of other really smart, talented people to write it for me.
That's what I do when I get bored with anything. I'm like, how do I continue this without actually contributing? But this book you did write yourself, and this is more of a memoir, I would say, right?
Yeah, that word makes me want to pull my teeth out one by one, but yes.
Does it make your vagina close tight? When things really annoy me, my vagina starts to hurt or shut.
Yeah. Just fully.
Why do you hate the word memoir?
I feel like I don't deserve to have written a memoir, I guess.
Okay, well, that's a great place to start because this whole book is basically you not believing you deserve anything. Which is, before you got on, Catherine and I were talking about you comparing, she was saying it's generational, and I was like, no, it's your whole generation that doesn't feel deserving of things. And she's like, no, she was talking about your father, who's David Mamet, of course, having it. And I was like, isn't that intergenerational? That would be like the whole family doesn't feel like they're enough.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I think it is both things. Yeah. It's intergenerational and generational. If we're getting down to the brass tacks of things.
It's all of the above.
It's all of the above. Anyway, it's a book of essays, and that's a better way to describe it. That's how I describe my books as well, because I've written so many that how could it possibly be a memoir, even though each one is? They are just essays and stories that I want to share, which this book does. And the book is called Does This Make Me Funny? And there's a really, really adorable picture of you on the cover as a little girl. So let's start with I want to talk about you calling yourself a B- Nepo baby at best.
Uh-huh.
I want to talk a little bit about Nepo babies because I think it's, I just had this conversation. I went to the U.S. Open and Jessica Pegula, who was playing at the U.S. Open. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's a great tennis player. She made it to I guess the semifinals. Her father is some big magnate of some business. I'm not sure which one. He's a billionaire though, right? So he had come into the U.S. Open on his mega yacht to watch her at the finals. And there were people talking about that. And I was with my trainer talking about it, and he goes, it makes me so crazy that anyone could think that you could get to that level just because your father has money. And I said, well, it's about money and access. But at the end of the day, you have to have the talent to sustain your ability to get more than one job. If you're going to base that on one job, it's not like your parents, you're in every movie with your fucking father, and every show with your father.
Look, Jessica Springsteen had parents who could give her, allot her the opportunity, but Bruce Springsteen did not get her to the Olympics.
Also, Bruce Springsteen sings and she rides horses.
1,000%.
So it's so fucking.
And maybe my family is slightly closer together, but I now have written a book, but I certainly wasn't doing exactly what my dad did.
No, right.
No, in fact, and also nepotism doesn't replace talent. People aren't going to continue to hire somebody because of their parents. That's just not the way that it works. When there's other people that could be more talented, if they could hire them, they're hiring them. A favor, it happens once. It doesn't happen over and over and over again. And also with regard to Jessica, there's this background story when she was at the finals. They show she had withstood major back injuries, major rehabilitation, major things that went awry earlier in her career that she had to recover from, and also have a determination to actually improve upon and get better and better. So arguably she had to fight even harder. And what I would say is in my experience in this business, I find that people who have famous parents like yourself actually many times have to work harder.
It's interesting. I was having that conversation with Billie Lourd recently, and we were talking about how
Love Billie.
I think she's the best ever.
Yeah, she's so great.
But there is this misconception that we are handed it so easily. and that we don't have to work hard for it. And people forget that you do actually have to be good at what you're doing. And so I think people often try to create higher, harder, more obstacles for us because they're like, they have a chip on their shoulder about it. Or
absolutely. That's what I think. And it's not a blanket statement. I'm sure there are some celebrity kids that, maybe aren't that talented that are getting more opportunities than others, but you almost have to prove yourself even more because people are like, "Oh, well, you're not just going to fly by on your mother or your father's name. You actually have to prove yourself."
And I'm sure that this isn't the case for everybody, but like Billy and I were talking, we're like, it's not as if our parents were like, here's a fully financed movie with a leading role for you that's gonna hopefully win you an Oscar. Like, they were not helping us in any way. Like, my dad never gave me a job. Like, my dad never told someone else to give me a job. Like, we were just saying our parents aren't just handing out legs up, here, there, and everywhere. We happen to have maybe access. And I honestly think like the greatest thing that growing up in a famous family in the industry allotted me was knowledge. Like, I just got to see what it was actually like, so I went into it without any misconceptions.
But that's also another point. It's like if you have two parents that are in the industry of entertainment, it's not like you're going to be attracted to plumbing and you're going to say, "Oh, I
Right.
want to," or accounting or any of the other vocations. It's natural for children to have two parents that are in some industry to also become
Right.
become a person that is in that
Whether they're,
industry.
even if they're lawyers or a plumber, like you said. Yeah.
Get very defensive on your behalf. I hope you can. I hope you
Love
can
it.
feel my aggravation.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I sound like I'm a nepo baby, but I wanted to be a nepo baby. That would have been a dream come true for me, but no. Okay, this is something that you talk about in the very first chapter, or the introduction of your book, that I just want to read on the podcast because I thought it was so fucking bold and great, and such a thing that a man could do. She's talking about her dad, and he walked in to a producer in Chicago with a copy of his first Broadway play, American Buffalo, and without a penny to his name, he threw the play down on the producer's desks. They had hard copies in those days, and said, "If that play doesn't win the Pulitzer Prize, I'll pay you $5,000. It did not, but the next one did. The brazenness of that and the confidence of that is like, it's what I want for every woman to feel.
I know. It's pretty crazy, right? Like, never a day in my life. Or if I did that, immediately followed by an apology.
Yeah. I mean, we still say we're sorry if we cough.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like I could get to the point of doing it, and then the second I had finished being like, I am powerful, woman, hear me roar, I'd be like, I'm so sorry. That was really inappropriate. I didn't actually I'm gonna leave. Your lunch is on me. Like,
Yeah.
I also hate when
Yeah.
we say I'm sorry when we start to cry. We always go, I'm so sorry. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
why? Why are we sorry that we're crying? We're
Or
feeling emotions.
When we correct someone else's mistake, it's like, I'm sorry, but this is actually don't be sorry.
I know. There's too much material to talk about that. I mean, please.
sorry, but you're reading that book upside down. I'm really sorry, but yeah.
Okay, you say something here, and this is something I talk a lot about on this podcast with different types of, whether it's writers, actors. You say, I didn't yet have the career I want, and I spend an unhealthy amount of time thinking about women my age who do, and wishing them not harm per se, but maybe hoping that they'd change their names and move to Siberia for a few years and give me a shot at bat for a while. To most people, I've had a very successful career, for which I am eternally grateful. I would like to talk about jealousy a little bit and envy, because I also feel like that is a healthy, normal feeling for anyone in any part of the world. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, to feel. There's nothing wrong with feeling envy. It's acting on envy where things become problematic. So I love that you wrote that in the book. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I do think that it's normal. I think it would be weird if we didn't feel that way. I do think that it can reach an unhealthy, abnormal level in this industry, specifically amongst women, because I think we're fed this idea in the entertainment industry. I mean, I don't know. I guess being a woman in general in any industry, that there's a finite amount of pie to be had. And so if someone else gets a piece of it, that means that there's less for you. And I just don't think at the end of the day that that's actually accurate. I think
No.
that that's untrue. And like, if you wanna get really heady, part of me is like, is that a deep-seated move on the patriarchy? Because, like, if we were to all band together, we would just be too fucking powerful to, like, kind of pit us against each other.
I think that's absolutely true.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the whole point of it. I mean, because women are just now coming to the realization that we're stronger together, and that all ships do rise with the tide.
I think that's really accurate. I think I just say that a lot. But I think this is an industry that is so success oriented. Like, you're not getting brownie points for the script you wrote that didn't get produced, Like, and the most talented, nice person doesn't always get the job. And so I think it can foster a sort of unhealthy
Comparison game.
I was just gonna say comparison. Yeah. And so I think that it is healthy to a certain extent. I think it is 1000% normal. But I think specifically in this industry, like, I do a lot of work trying to check myself of just like, Mehmet, stay in your own lane. Like, just stay in your, like, stop doing this and just like stay in your own lane.
You have a pretty heartbreaking chapter in here about school as a young girl and going to school because your parents split up before you were even a year old. And then you were living in Cambridge initially, right? And then you
Yep.
moved with your mother. And then that created some separation between you and your dad. And then they both went on to have other children and other families. So your like first kind of formative years at school were brutal. It was kind of, really triggering to read because I mean, we've all been there, and some worse than others, but yours sounded like you withstood that trauma for as long as you possibly could and then had to say, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and like too long looking back on it. But also, I was a kid and know I didn't really know that I could say that. But yeah, it got to the point where I was unable to handle it. Like, all the kids, but I think those girls in particular were really, they just seemed to live to make my life miserable.
Why don't you tell us the story about the birthday party and revealing being invited to the birthday party and having to call and find out what time it was?
Yeah, I mean, this is like a perfect example. They would pull that shit all the time. They would sort of lure me into asking a question about some things. They were talking about something in front of me, and I was like, "What are you guys talking about?" And they were like, "Oh, we're talking about," I forgot what I renamed the
Evie's
girl. And
birthday party.
yeah. And I was like, "Oh, when is it?" And they were like, "It's on Saturday." I was like, "What time?" They're like, "We're not sure. You should call her and ask what time it is. Like, she hasn't told any of us, so we're waiting to find out." And I was like, "Okay, great." So then I go home and I call Evie and I'm like, "Hey, Evie, all the girls were talking about your birthday party on Saturday and they told me to call you and ask what time it is. What time is it?" And then she started hysterically sobbing and hung up the phone. And then I get a call from a bunch of the girls, a couple minutes later, chastising me for ruining Evie's surprise birthday party.
Mm.
So they would just set these traps for me.
Like mind games.
1000% mind
Yeah.
games. They were full, like, Machiavellian, these young little blonde ladies.
I mean, young little girls are brutal. And for every woman here who's listening to this podcast, like anyone who has children, it is so important to teach your children kindness and compassion and not to be bullies. Like, I've had friends whose daughters have been bullies and they were in complete denial about it because they chose to believe their daughter was a bully. It is so important. I mean, it is torturous when you are young and in defense, like you don't don't know how to defend yourself, and you don't know where to go or who to talk to. And, it leads to so many problems in life. And for like, I saw this beautiful video yesterday on Instagram of this boy wrestling at this wrestling match. And he was wrestling this kid who had cerebral palsy, whose team allowed him to compete, at this level. They looked like they were in, 6th or 7th grade. And the kid from the other school immediately recognized, how easy it would be to beat this kid. And he sat there with him and let him like slowly help this guy wrestle him to the ground so that he would win that match. And every comment was like, whoever raised this boy did such a beautiful job. And that's what I think about with regard to bullying. It's like your parents have to be paying attention to how their children, especially young girls, because they are brutal. And I know that we have problems with young boys too, but girls are just so mean to each other. And you cannot have your child behaving that way. And it's very illustrative in this book of what you went through. So I think people are going to really I know I went through some hell growing up too. And then you end up becoming a bully. You either end up retreating and having an eating disorder, this disorder, having no self-esteem, or you end up becoming the bully that bullied you in order to defend yourself. So, but your story is also great because that woman or that girl at the time who's named Evie in the book comes to see you during, was it the play on Broadway when she came with her father?
We were off Broadway. It was the play that I met my husband doing. We were doing it at the Lortel. And yeah.
And tell us what happened. She came.
So I left one night and the security guard told me that someone had left a note for me while we were on stage. And he gave me the note, and I hadn't thought about this girl in over a decade. And I guess she and her dad had been walking by the theater and they had seen my name on the marquee, and they'd written a note and left it with the box office. And it was in her little curly Q scrawl. And she's like, "Oh my God, Zashi, we're so proud of you." And it just made my blood run cold. It took me back to being that little girl with her playing these horrible mind games on me. And it made me so angry because I think that feeling pride for someone innately involves a type of ownership is the wrong word, but you had a hand in that when you're like, "I'm so proud of you." It normally means that you have a deep connection to that person, or maybe you had a hand in them accomplishing whatever this thing was. And it made me so deeply furious. I was like, "You don't get to be proud of me.
Right.
You don't get to have that." And I tore up the note and I ground it into the New York sidewalk with my boot.
So you don't know that they saw the play. You just did.
They didn't see the
they
play.
didn't.
They literally just walked by and saw my name on the marquee, which also I was just like, that's okay. I don't know. It wasn't even like they paid for and bought a ticket and came to see what I did. They
Right. Exactly. Let's talk about your eating disorder. And I say that in an upbeat tone for no reason whatsoever. But just because I'm assuming that you're out of the woods on that issue. Am I correct?
Yeah. We're good.
You talk a lot about this and about this number in your head, 100 pounds, 100 pounds. That was the right weight. And even when you went underneath 100 pounds to 92 pounds to 93 pounds, you were sick, you were using drugs, you were partying, you were escaping. Talk to us a little bit about that for the people that are listening with children and girls that are experiencing that are listening.
I think the biggest misconception about an eating disorder is that it's about the weight and that it's about the food, which obviously, yes, that is an aspect of it. But at its core, it's about control. And it's born from this need to control when you feel out of control. And so food and your weight feel like these very tangible things when the thing that probably is making you feel out of control is not tangible whatsoever. For me, it was my circumstance, my surroundings, the kids that I was in school with, my home life. And so my anxiety eating disorder brain latched onto this number that felt like if I can just achieve that number, then all of these feelings of fear and worthlessness and sadness will go away and I will finally feel safe. But obviously, that wasn't true because I hit that number and none of those feelings went away and I didn't feel safe. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's still that number, but I just have to try harder. It's like your brain starts to make excuses as to why the thing you've decided is the answer is still the answer when obviously it very much isn't. And so I just kept trying to reach 100 pounds. It was a sort of amorphous goal in my mind that seemed like the silver bullet to all of my problems. And it really wasn't. It was actually just slowly killing me.
And how did you finally come out of that? Did you go into treatment?
I almost went into in treatment. I didn't. And honestly, looking back on it, I do not envy a parent who is dealing with this. I can only like it was obviously hard for me. I think it was so much harder for my dad to feel helpless as well on the other side of it. And I'm sure it is so hard to put a kid in treatment. And he tried and I fought back really hard. And I honestly wish that I had because I think my recovery wouldn't have taken as long. I think in treatment programs are there for a reason, but really I have my dad to credit with finally turning the ship around. I was really in a bad way. I'd seen a lot of doctors who basically were like, you're dying. That's what's happening. Like your body is disintegrating and you're dying.
And how brittle your bones were, that they told you,
Yeah.
like, if you fell down, you could potentially break your pelvis, like that you had just had no nutrition.
No nutrition. No, yeah. I had arthritis. I couldn't ride horses anymore. I could like barely walk up a set of stairs. Like
Oh.
I had issues with my heart. It was really bad. And my dad came home from a dinner party one night, where he'd sat next to someone whose daughter had recently gone through the same thing and had sort of come out the other side. And he ended up opening up to her and she talked to him for the whole dinner party and she gave him the number of this woman who would then become my therapist, who was incredible and fully saved my life. But he came home and I was up reading in my bedroom and he came into my room and he sat on my bed and my dad, as I'm sure you can imagine, is like a very strong, oftentimes very stoic person. And I'd never seen him cry. And he started crying and he put his head in my lap and he said, "You have to promise me that you won't die." And he just kept saying it over and over again. And it was the first time that I realized that what was happening to me wasn't just about me. And it was really my wake up call. And I realized that if I died, it wouldn't just affect me, it would also affect him. And I was like, okay, well, I don't want to do that to him. I don't really care about me yet, but I don't want to do that to him.
Yeah, wow, that's really moving. It's amazing when, somebody can say something like that to you and it has the impact that is strong enough to make you quit the thing or to make you understand that you have to quit the thing that is going to destroy you and destroy the lives of the people that love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about girls. Let's talk about getting that role and working with Lena and how that experience changed your life. I mean, first of all, best fucking show ever.
I'm so great.
So fucking awesome. I mean, I remember
Yeah.
watching that show the first time. I was like, this is going to be a huge, because I think I was interviewing Lena probably on Chelsea Lately or maybe my other talk show. And so I saw it before it was out and I got to watch the whole series. I was like, this is going to be fucking huge. And of course it was, because it was just exactly what everybody needed. It was like your generation's Sex in the City. Just such a coming of age in New York City. So funny, so well cast. All of everybody in it was incredible. So tell us about getting that part, how that happened.
I was shooting this movie, this like truly terrible indie film in upstate New York with horrible conditions. Like 19, 20-hour days all told. And we were meant to be cheating early September, and it was late October, and it was the coldest October on record. It was so cold that the farmers were all like, there will be no pumpkins for Halloween because our crops have frozen. So it was like some sort of record-breaking cold, and I was always basically 90% of the movie was exteriors, and I was always in this tank top trash bag dress. It was like literally a dress made of trash bags that I had to get ironed into every day, which is really, looking back on it, like, should have been my first sign that this was not gonna be a good experience because I was, like, literally wearing trash. And I got this audition. We were shooting 6-day weeks, so I had 1 day off, and I convinced this young PA not to go to church with her husband and her newborn baby and instead stay behind and help me film this audition in our production office, which was an abandoned barn that had very bad Wi-Fi, and I'm pretty technologically inept. So we filmed the audition. It takes me like 7 hours to get the tape to send to my agent, which almost doesn't happen. At like hour 3 or 4, I was like, I give up. I can't get this to send. It keeps saying your file is too large. And he was like, please, 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 please. I really need your tape. I think this show is going to be a really big deal. So I finally get in my tape. I end up getting the job. We happen to have the Monday off that the table read is scheduled for in Manhattan. And at this point, I've developed pneumonia from these long days shooting in the cold in my trash bag dress. But the producers have paid off a local doctor to tell me that I just have a head cold so that I can keep working.
How did you find that out?
I just, the PAs talk, you know what I mean?
Oh, God.
So the woman who was like basically the PA that I spent the most time with ended up giving me the skinny. Also, I sort of put it together anyways because she kept showing up and listening to me like breathe in, and literally it sounded like, like a water cooler in my lungs. There was so much fluid. And she would be like, just take some echinacea. And I was like, I feel like we're beyond that.
Yeah.
Um,
Echinacea. That's like when
anyways,
people talk about
so
melatonin. It's like, please.
I was so sick. I was like at death's door. I would cough so hard I'd throw up. Like, it was not cute. So I came in that Sunday night before, and I stayed with a friend of mine in the city. And I was like, I want to be on my A game tomorrow. I was super nervous. It's like, I need to get a good night's sleep so I can like be with it tomorrow morning. So I took some Nyquil, and I'm sure I took Nyquil before this, but I don't really have a recollection of doing so. But I now know that Nyquil and I don't mesh well. I don't remember much about the following morning. I remember getting in the car. I remember it was raining. I remember getting to Silvercrest Studios, walking into the table read. I remember being introduced to Lena Dunham and Judd Apatow and shaking their hands. And then I literally do not remember anything, like nothing. It is a full void until I woke up on my friend's floor, who I was staying with, like drenched in sweat. And I had this weird sort of fever dream recollection that I, in the middle of the table read, had like projectile vomited on the table. But I also didn't know if that was real or not because I was still sort of in a NyQuil haze. So I called my agent, freaking out, and I was like, so this may have happened, but I'm not sure. And he was like, okay, calm down. I'm sure it's going to be fine. I'm going to call the executives. I'll get back to you. Meanwhile, I had to like get on a train and hightail it back to Helltown, upstate New York, to finish shooting this movie that I wore a trash bag dress in. And I don't hear from him for a full week. During which I'm like, yeah, that face, exactly. I'm like,
How did you not continue to call him and call him and call him?
Yeah, and he like I would call him, but he was like, I haven't heard from them. And I was like, oh my God.
Well,
So
then it definitely
obviously
happened.
I'm fired. Like for sure, no question, I'm fired. But like beyond that, they're going to tell everybody I'm a drug addict. They're going to tell everybody not to work with me. Like uh, I'm I'm fucked. So then after a week of just full spiral, he calls me and he's like, the reason it took them so long to get back to us is that they were amending your contract. They loved what you did so much at the table read that they want to make you a series regular because initially the show was written for 3 girls, not 4. And they were like, they want to make you the 4th girl.
Oh,
Wow.
that's so fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I
It
mean,
was
who
crazy.
knows what happened during that table read? Maybe
Who
that's
knows?
how you should go into all table reads.
Well, truly, I'm
It-
like, do I just take NyQuil always?
You should just get like a vaccine the day you have to go in. Yeah,
No, just
yeah.
blackout.
I just got my polio booster vaccine yesterday since
Polio,
there's polio
okay.
going around
Oh,
all
right.
of a sudden
Thanks,
again.
RFK.
And they were like, "Oh, you might be sick for the next few days." And I was like, "Oh, that's what you're describing." I mean,
Yeah.
basically, I could have symptoms. I don't have them, but because I'm a fucking horse. But oh, that's really funny. Yeah, and so,
Love
what
it.
was it like? How was it? What was it like working with Lena and the other girls?
It was just a dream. Like we shot that show all told from like shooting the pilot to our last episode was 7 years. I spent my 20s shooting that show. I mean,
I like the number 7 as a time of work. I feel like the reason that there's a phrase, a 7-year itch, because it's so true. Like 7 years is a great amount of time to spend in a relationship, on a job. Like 7 years is a good like chunk, and it doesn't take away, like it's a great addition, and it's not too long when you have a good experience with something. It's just the perfect amount of time, I think. There's
it's a
something
good
about the
amount of
number
time.
7. Okay, so we're going to take a break. We'll take a break right now, and we'll be right back with Zosia Mamet. And we're back with Zosia Mamet. Okay, so this book is filled with lots of stories. Some are really sad, some are really sweet, and some are really moving, and some are really, really funny. Yes, I would say I think this book does make you funny. That's the title of the book. Does this make me funny? I think you're already funny, so it was good that you put it down on paper. How did you decide to write this right now?
So it wasn't my decision. When I pitched that book, My First Popsicle, the woman who ended up becoming my editor at Penguin, this woman, Meg Letter, who's amazing, had asked if I would consider doing a 2-book deal and doing Popsicle first, but then following it up with a book of essays. And this was like 5 years ago at this point, maybe more.
That's a very interesting way for the publishing industry to work before you've proven yourself to offer you a 2-book deal, though.
Well, I think she'd read my essays in Glamour, and so I think she was like,
Okay.
I've since learned that anthologies are very hard. They're hard for people to put together, they're hard for people to sell. I was like, what could be cooler than like a bunch of amazing people all in the same place writing their stories? But I guess I'm sort of maybe alone in that, or I'm not. That's not the popular thought. So she kind of agreed to do my anthology essay idea. But really what she had wanted was this book of essays. Um, and I was super shocked that she asked for that. I was like, I mean, I write this column for Glamour, but like, who wants to read a full book of my essays? But I said yes because I'm an actor and I'll say yes to any job anyone wants to give me that they pay me money for. Um, Pretty much. I just like didn't think it would ever actually happen. Like I think in my brain, I was like, yeah, I'm saying yes to this. But like, we're gonna do this anthology, and then like, I don't know, but they'll probably forget about this one, or they'll like change their mind or something. Um, and it takes so long to write and publish a book. I mean, it's like it takes like 7,000 years from the
The
moment you start
process
writing.
can only be described as tedious and annoying because
Exactly.
you are so creative. You feel like you're putting so much in, and then what follows all the creative bursts and blasts and all of this like catharsis and sharing is so tedious. Once they put the book actually together, it's just like one task after another that you're like, way to take the fucking fun out of this.
Like, by the time we were talking about what kind of font, like, the numbers would be next to the I was just like, "I'm out. Just I don't care. You can do it."
My last book, my last book for the cover, I was like, "Can you just find a fucking shot that matches what we're doing? Like, do we really need to do a photo shoot for this cover?" They're like, "Most people get excited about this." I'm like, "Not me. I'm not excited to shoot another book cover."
That was the one thing that I really held firm on, though. I knew that I wanted my buddy Danny Sangra to design the cover. He's an incredible filmmaker, but he's also an amazing visual artist, and he is one of my dearest friends and knows me so well.
Mm.
I just have to be like, "Danny, can you do my cover?" And he'll make it perfect. And they kept sending me these options that were, like, great, but just I was like, "No."
Yeah.
And they made me jump through so many hoops because I now know they like to keep it internal, and I just was like every time they would send me an email with options, I would write back and be like, "Can Danny please design my cover?" And they finally said yes. But we did Popsicle. I loved doing it because I wrote one essay and then I just got it to edit a bunch of other brilliant people's work, and by edit, basically be like, "Thanks so much, it looks great." So when we when that came out, I was like, "Okay, Meg, my editor, can we do another one of these?" And she was like, "Well, no, because now you have to write your book." And I was like, "Right, but can we do another one of these and I'll do that after?" And she was like, "No, because you're contractually obligated to write this book first."
Okay, we're gonna take a couple callers and give them advice, life advice, Sasha. Okay, that's what we do here at Dear Chelsea.
Do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Nothing better than an outside perspective,
Right?
What do we got, Catherine?
Well, our first caller is Alex, and he says, "Dear Chelsea, I'm a 36-year-old gay guy, and I am chronically online. I have a good full-time job, and most people that know me hold me in high esteem, but I am absolutely obsessed with Instagram and Threads mostly. I always get into fights in the comments, especially about politics. I always think I have the best points to make, and often maybe I do, but I know that my comments are unlikely to really result in epiphanies where MAGA people will change their ways. I figured since I don't argue with family or friends, what's the harm? But I comment so often that on popular pages, my friends will see what I've written, and everyone knows how chronically online and combative I am. Help, Alex."
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hi, this is our special guest, Zosia Mamet, today.
Oh, hey.
Hey. Listen, as fun and as addicting as social media can be, well, addicting it is, and as fun as it can be, it is not good for your brain. You are not feeding your brain when you are on social media. So you need to start detoxing. And by detoxing, I mean you need to you can start small. You can start with an hour a day that you turn your phone off and put it somewhere. Just put it away somewhere. When you get home from work or your most vulnerable time, wherever you feel it the most. But you have to understand, like, there are so many articles. If you just Google, what does social media do to your brain? You can read, it's going to make you sick. You can't spend that much time, online looking at other people's lives is not healthy. You need to fucking read a book. That's what you need to be doing. And you need to get into the habit of when you don't have anything to do that you're reading a book because you're addicted. You have an addiction and now you have to detox from your addiction.
Chelsea, that's harsh.
I know. I know, but it's true. It's like, it's not good for us. And listen, we all are dealing with this. You're not alone.
Yep,
and
it's true.
But you can take steps. Like, don't you want to be a more well-rounded person? You don't want to just be somebody who's arguing online or trying to make brilliant points online. Like, to what avail? Like, what is that going to get you? What does it give you?
It gives me some satisfaction when I win.
How does winning, what does winning look like?
Winning to me looks like when the other person maybe ends up blocking me because in my head they've like decided that they cannot argue my valid points anymore.
Okay.
Like one of my most passionate things is about Chicago. I live in Chicago, and people are calling it a hellhole and all this crazy stuff. And this guy was just going in on me. Like, a lot of people, because of the way I look, they're like, you must live in a suburb or like on the north side or something. And I don't. And like, this person was going in on me, and then I told him where I lived and like where I have lived and the things that are great about where I live. And then he blocked me. And so it gives me a lot of satisfaction that I won that argument.
Well, but you didn't win the argument. Winning the argument would have been him going, wow, you raised so many great points about Chicago, and I was misinformed. That would be a win. Changing someone's mind would be a win. Having someone block you is not a win.
Don't tell people online that you're arguing with where you live. First rule.
I was just going to say that. I feel maybe,
Sasha, how do you handle your relationship with social media?
It's very tough because I have to be on it for work. It sadly is now like a part of the job, but I find it's so true. If I don't go on it, or I only go on it for a specific amount of time to a specific end, it makes me feel so much better.
Yeah.
Like if I spend multiple days because the problem is it's not real. But society and our brains keep telling us that it is, but it's not. And it's creating these like very weird parasocial dynamics. That aren't actually based in reality. So it's like, and it is absolutely an addiction. I mean, it's a dopamine hit, 1000%.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're all guilty of it. So just like, you're living in a world where everyone is dealing with this. So you should get some comfort from that. But you should also be worried about your brain health. You know what I mean? Because no one's coming to save you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to make the moves to make sure that you are having like a healthier relationship with social media, and also find some other things to do that prevent you from being online. Go fucking play tennis. Go play basketball. Go do yoga. Whatever is interesting to you, commit to these things with the intention of breaking away from social media so it is not an addiction. Set the timer. They give you those timers. Okay, you've spent an hour on social media today. You can choose to ignore it, but you have to be in control of yourself to exercise your willingness to change. You know what I mean? You have to have a willingness, and then you have to have a follow through. And I think follow through is pretty much the most important thing in life, is following through. You're calling because you have a problem. You're not calling to hear me tell you, oh my God, I love it. Keep doing it. Are you?
No, I'm not.
Right. So you have a problem. You've admitted it. Great. Those are the first two major steps. Now you can take some steps to just spend less time. You don't have to quit. Just spend less time and stop arguing with people. Don't tell people where you live. That's all just kind of like jerking off into a fucking wall. Do you know what I mean? What is the point? Go read Anna Karenina. Go read a book that's going to make you think. Zosia just wrote a great book of essays called Does This Make Me Funny? Start reading books. That is going to add to your brain health way more than social media. And that's a fucking doctor's order, okay?
Okay. I understand.
Okay. Keep us posted. Check back in a month and let us know how you're doing. Even if you failed miserably, we want to know about it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
I think I'll start by trying to put a separation like right after work. Like, unfortunately,
Perfect.
Work requires me to use a smartphone now too. And so that'll be a good separation from work to life, and I'll start there.
And just look at and write it down. Write it down every night. Look at how many hours you spent on your phone. And I know sometimes you're on your phone for work and not social media, but there's a differentiation there. They show you, they break it up. So look at that amount of hours, and then every day work on decreasing that amount of hours.
Yeah, and I like what you said about like putting something in its place, like going out to doing something real, like Zosia said, like something real that's in the real world. You can also log that and be like, today I did an hour I took a walk, or I did, whatever the thing is.
Yeah. And maybe if I want to crusade for the world, I should do something real and volunteer instead.
Yes,
Ooh, I like
exactly.
that.
That's right. That's what Mitch Albom said. We just had Mitch Albom on, the writer. You've probably never heard of him because you're too busy online all the time. But he's written so many beautiful books. And he said when he wakes up in the morning, he just starts to write immediately without looking at the news, he doesn't want anything in his head other than fresh ideas. And so if you think about all that noise that you're allowing, and you're welcoming into your brain, that could be re-engineered to have so much more, and just have a fuller life.
Yeah. Okay. This is helpful.
Okay, good. Those are your marching orders. Good luck.
Thanks, Alex.
Yes. Chelsea, can I say one thing to you?
Yeah.
I've been a really big fan of you for a long time, and I just think that you're a model of someone that's shown personal growth that's obvious while preserving your authenticity. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you soon.
I love yelling at my fans.
You know what? A lot of them, that's what they're asking for.
That's
They're like,
what they're
I need
calling
Chelsea.
for. They want me to.
Like,
Yeah.
he wouldn't have come on if he didn't want that.
Right.
Right? It's like a kid sort of wanting to get caught.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, our next caller is John. So John says, Dear Chelsea, your stand-up and books have gotten me through some really rough times in my life. So I thought it would be fitting for me to reach out to you about an issue I'm having with my wedding guest list. I'm a gay man, and my partner and I have been together for 5 years. This is both of our first ever relationships, which also led us to coming out to our family members. Although most of my family was highly supportive, my mother was not, to put it mildly. My mother and I have never really had a healthy relationship. She gave me up to be raised by my grandparents when I was in the 5th grade. We remained cordial for the most part for the sake of my grandparents, but this all changed in 2018 when a disagreement between my grandparents and my mother resulted in a significant family rupture in which I ultimately sided with my grandparents. During my coming out year, my grandparents encouraged me to have a conversation with my mother, which I was hesitant about but agreed to. As predicted, the conversation went horribly. She was not accepting of, as she put it, my life choices. Sidebar, some of my life choices include that I am the first college graduate in my family, a licensed psychotherapist, soon-to-be psychologist, and caring partner. So I think I turned out pretty well despite the trauma that comes along with being abandoned by a parent. Anyway, my mother found out about the engagement and has been speaking to my grandmother about it, who has been slightly pressuring me to invite her to the wedding. It's important for me to be surrounded by people who have been supportive of my relationship. However, I don't want my grandparents to be upset that my mother wasn't invited, since she has a history of taking things out on them when she's upset with me. And I don't know if I'll regret not inviting her, which is probably influenced by my inner child still longing for his mother. My partner and I are getting ready to send out save the dates next month, and I am really on the fence about whether or not to invite her. I could really use your unfiltered and unbiased feedback. John.
Hi, John.
Hello.
Hi. This is Zosia Mamet. She's our special guest today.
Hi,
Hello.
John.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Me
Hi.
too.
Well, listen, first of all, congratulations on having your fucking shit together, okay?
Yeah.
You have your
Sorry.
shit together. And if your mother won't tell you, I will. You are a fucking success. And I love when a psychotherapist calls here for advice. So, I mean, that's
Yes.
always very entertaining. Have you had conversations with your mother recently about your relationship and or about like, you know, the seriousness of your relationship? Does she know your partner?
She met him once a couple years ago. We went to drop off Christmas presents there, and he was with me. But she said hi to him and then ignored him the rest of the time we were there. She knows we're engaged. She knows we're getting married, but she doesn't really talk about him to me whenever we talk. She avoids that.
Okay. Do you think it would be worthwhile to have a conversation with her to see where she stands with regard to your relationship? If she understands that you're in love, that you're marrying a partner, that you guys are intending to be together for the rest of your lives, do you think that's a worthwhile endeavor for you?
Ideally, it would be. I struggle with trusting what her reaction is going to be. And usually in conversations like those, I walk away feeling pretty shitty. So I don't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, you can't control what she's going to say, obviously, but I would, if you like in any way, shape, or form are not feeling like you're going to have a safe experience at your wedding emotionally, then your mother isn't welcome there, and you can't take care of your grandparents' feelings either. You know what I mean? This is about you, and this is about your partnership with your husband and what you guys are building together, and building it on a foundation of strength rather than negativity would be the starting point, right? And I think you probably know well enough that if you can't rely on her to be supportive and to be there for the right reasons, then it's not just about inviting her so that your grandparents feel better. Like, you're saving them some trouble too. Like, she'll take it out on them is what I gather if she doesn't get invited, right? she'll take it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it might be worthwhile just to send her an email and let her know why she's not invited, and if she really, or if you want to do it prematurely, like if you want to reach out to her via email, because sometimes it's better to write these things instead of say them out loud, because your emotions will get the better of you, to write down and say, listen, this is what I'm embarking on. I'm about to spend the rest of my life with the man that I love. And we've been, you've never really exhibited any support for this relationship or, shown any interest in him. So I'm unclear as to how to proceed about including you in the wedding. Is this something you think that you would want to be a part of? Do you think that you can show up for me and be 100% supportive? Because that's all I want on that day. And leave it in her court and see how she comes back to you. And if she comes back to you in any way that makes you feel ick or weird, or you're like nervous, or you're emotionally not taken care of, then that's your answer. And you don't have to have the conversation with her. And you can easily explain to your grandparents, that you did that. You could CC them or not CC them. Don't involve them when it's not necessary. They're probably old and tired. Zosia, what do you think?
I'm so sorry that you're in this position. It's truly terrible. And it's such a bummer because you're the child here and this shouldn't have to be your responsibility. But sadly, that's just sometimes life. But my husband and I had some tricky family stuff when we were getting married, and some tricky friend stuff, and we really sat down and said, this is a day to celebrate our love. This is the day that's supposed to kick off the rest of our lives. And we decided the only people that were allowed to be at our wedding were people who we felt like we either saw or talked to every week. That they were people that made us feel happy and good and safe. And, we would have these sort of like, you can get very political when you're planning a wedding, right? You start to be like, well, we invite this person, we have to, and we were like, you know what? This wedding is for us. This wedding is about us saying I love you in front of I love you forever in front of our community. And the only people that we want there are those who are going to elevate that love. And that was our hard line. And it didn't always make the decision to maybe not invite some people easy. But I think at the end of the day, it was the right choice because it truly did feel like a joy love bubble. And I think Chelsea's right. This is your day. And everyone who's there should be in support of that union. And it's really up to your mom whether or not she can do that. But if she can't, I don't think it's your responsibility to make her and your grandparents feel better by inviting her.
I appreciate that. Both of your advice is amazing. Sounds similar to some of the advice I would give one of my clients, but I think I need to practice what I preach here a little bit more.
Yeah, I think you have from this call permission to say no. It's sometimes it's hardest for us to give ourselves permission, and you definitely have that here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And just remember, when you make a decision like this, either way you go, then that becomes the decision. Like if you decide not to include your mom, I don't know that that's something that's necessarily going to weigh on you personally for once, for the time that is remaining until the wedding. It might be like, oh, okay, that's off my plate. Like I've made a decision. Or conversely, to say I'm including her, it's like, okay, I've accepted that she's going to come. Like whatever decision you go with is fine. But I think that you can write that letter and email and put it in writing so that she has time to read it, reflect on it. It can't be, it's not going to be argumentative. It's going to come from a place of love and self-protection.
Bad idea. I will definitely do that. And I'll have to circle back and update you folks.
Yes, definitely. Please do.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
And have so much fun at your wedding.
And congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Well, we'll take a break and we'll be right back to wrap up with Zosia. Okay. And we're back with Zosia Mamet, who wrote this great little book called Does This Make Me Funny? It's a book of essays, her personal essays, and it's filled with everything you could want out of a book, quite frankly. So thank you, Zosia, for being here today. I wish you the best luck with this book. And and I'm just so happy you're healthy and bouncing around the world and you're in love with your husband. You've been married for 13 years now, right? Something like that?
Married together 13, married in October for 9. Yeah, long time.
Wow, good for you. And no children.
Not yet. No.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Okay. So, Have a great day. Love you, honey.
Thanks, Sasha.
Bye. Bye-bye.